welcome back to Insanity Check Radio. I'm Skillet Sauce, that is Ken, and we're talking about niggas. And the word, nigga. We're not actually talking about niggas, we're talking about the word nigga or niggas.
Right.
And that's just...
And basically why we can say this freely without getting into a knife fight with each other. And, it's an issue when those who are, melaninly challenged use the word.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was making a point about the high school that I attended. Yes. And like I said, it was a very diverse, specialized high school for the arts. And this was right around the time when MTV had just first embraced Walk This Way with Run DMC and all this other kind of stuff. Yo MTV Raps and hip hop had really started to cross over from the inner city to mainstream. And so then the hip hop culture, as it was known at that time, became in fashion and in vogue to the teens of the day. And obviously, if you know anything about hip hop or at any generation, there was a lot of salty dialogue. Some guys used profanity. Some guys talked about, whatever, erotic stuff and nasty stuff and stuff, whatever. And there was always ghetto verbiage. There was always, niggas this and niggas that. So that's the way we spoke. And when I say we would have a group of kids after school talking amongst one another, male and female, every nationality, we all sounded the same. There was never like, what did you just say to me? You just called me a nigga, you Chinese, or the Chinese guy talking to the white guy, calling him a nigga, and all this other kind of stuff. So I'm like, this is, to me, I didn't even think of it because we were just all amongst ourselves just saying it, and I understood the context in which we were having these conversations. We were just cutting it up as kids after school. Now, at no point in time am I immune or I won't even say desensitized, but I mean just immune or ignorant to the fact of the way that word was used back in the Jim Crow days, the way it's still used in today's society, just more underground. But I think this Gwyneth Paltrow thing should not have even been a lightning rod because, like I said, the context of that particular text or tweet or whatever. But the people that are complaining, you said a lot of people, because I personally didn't even go to the comments. I didn't even want to hear what people had to say about it because there are too many other issues out there that we really need to be focused on, or whether or not Gwyneth Paltrow, who's hanging out with these two rappers, are saying something or doing something that is racist. I think there's just way too much stuff for us to be even considering to even deal with that shit. So... Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second. This is one of those... What the fuck is going on here?
Other bag.
You stealing my shit, nigga? What the hell is going on? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, wait a second. I got to mention, there's been some questionable behavior in this studio. We're talking about buck-naked cannibals one day, and then, of course, 8 starts taking off his clothes and shit like that inside the studio. Now we're talking about niggas and shit, and 8 is going and rummaging through my damn bag.
Apparently 8 is a highly suggestive individual.
Yeah, I know, man. It's highly suggestive. We're putting like images in.
Yeah. The thing is, this is why I perceive the problem to be. It's twofold. Well, it's kind of one. Again, like I said before, black people, they choose the wrong battles to fight, and kind of like 8, they're highly suggestive. You tell them they're supposed to be angered by shit, they just are angry. They don't think about it. They don't examine it. They don't process what they just seen or heard. It's just like, oh, hot word nigga, hot word white woman. We gotta get mad.
Just blow it. You gotta get very much upset at that yet.
Right. As I mentioned to you, years ago, Jason Alexander, who played George on Seinfeld, okay, he was on, I'm almost certain it was Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson still was doing his show. This is before Jay Leno.
Yeah.
And Jason Alexander was talking about, was relating a story about Richard Pryor, who was obviously still alive at this point.
And at that time, he was still using the word nigga because at one point, Richard Pryor sort of like...
Well, actually, no. Well, this is right after.
Oh, this is right... Oh, that's exactly
because
right. Okay.
He was recounting what one of a bit or basically a part of Richard Pryor's act where he talked about when he went to Africa.
Yeah.
And he said, and this is now I'm repeating what Jason Alexander said. White Jason Alexander on national television. He said, so he's talking about his trip to Africa, and I'm only going to say this because Richard Pryor said it.
Okay, so he prefaced it.
Right, yeah, and he said, Richard Pryor said, do you see any niggers here? And he answered himself, he was like, no. And he finished the story.
And a direct quote from Richard Pryor.
Johnny Carson didn't jump out of his seat. The audience didn't start screaming. There wasn't a fucking news flash that Jason Alexander said nigga on national television.
Nope.
Nothing was in the papers. Nada.
Yeah, this was not a Kramer situation. Right. This was nothing. It was just he quoted
because because somehow we were, I don't know, smart enough, wise enough, and
to understand the context. Listen, I told you, most of these fools today would think context is a message from jail.
Exactly.
These people wouldn't know what they would not understand what it. And to me, okay. First, what did you? Because we have some of that video from the N-word documentary, right? Mm-hmm. But did you also get were you able to rip the part from The View? What we'll be over?
Absolutely.
And what about the Louis C. Clark and Chris Rock? Okay, because it's gonna, you're right. We were more. Number one, I think because you had, that was in a period of time where the comedians to me were larger than they are now. It was because now most comedians come a little bit of stage stuff and then they'll like go into movies, and they have to obviously change their material because they have, they have to fit into a character for a movie. Mm-hmm. Back in those days, you had, comedians whose main bread and butter was going on stage, putting out albums and stuff like that, and doing their material. So Richard Pryor, these guys, Richard Pryor said nigga on television all the time. I mean, on regular television. I remember seeing Sanford and Son, and it was a situation where they was talking about something on a case. There was like, something was going on. They were in court, and he said, "What's the matter, man? Y'all ain't letting niggas in here?" Something along those lines. And no one was like,
that was one way to say you got more niggas in here than a Tarzan movie?
Yeah. You got more niggas in here than a Tarzan movie. And All in the Family. When the then. Jefferson character, because that was before Sherman Hemsley was there. I think it was the first. Remember the first Jefferson guy was another bald head,
his brother. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But still, in all, that word came up. And I'm not trying to say that white folks should just go willy nilly and just screaming at
because you get the shit slapped.
Because we understand the difference. But listen, I actually saw a documentary called Banging in Little Rock, right? And it was about gun runners and gangs and stuff like that in Little Rock, Arkansas. And they were showing a particular gang, all white. There was not a black, there was no melanin, not a drop of melanin in this group, right? They all had they whatever their colors on, or whatever the hell it is, obscuring most of their face and stuff. You only saw their eyes and everything. And, they had their mouth, they had the dialogue muffled, so you really couldn't get their voices or whatever. They were trying to hide their identities. But I was just listening to the things that they were saying. And they were talking some real ghetto hood stuff. We had to roll on these guys. We had to engage in gang activity. But they were referring to each other as niggas. They were referring to the dudes that they shot as niggas, and they were all white. And I'm looking at it like, this is really like you can either go upper class, lower class, when you think of it that way, because I can't even tell you how many times I've been in Spanish neighborhoods where the Spanish dudes are calling each other nigga, yo, nigga. That's just the way it is. And this dude, just on the last note, I remember a guy. It was so funny because he caught himself, and he should have. I was selling a cell phone to this white dude, and he was talking, and I could tell this dude was straight hood, straight ghetto white guy. And he said, yo, and the last time, nigga tried to sell me something, blah, 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 I was like, yo, I got to check it. And the way he said it, I knew he didn't mean the last time a black person tried to sell me something. It was just the last time a dude sold me something, I had to make sure it was legitimate. So then he caught himself. He's like, yo, and I was like, man, whatever, man, because I can smell hood a mile away because I grew up in one. So I didn't like check him. I didn't be like, yo, man, I'm gonna bust your fucking ass for calling, what. I understood what he meant, because when I buy shit from niggas, I check it. You know, and you should too. If you buy anything from some niggas, check it, because they'll try and get over on you. So I understood what it was just from listening to the way he used his words, the way he pronounced his words. Had he never even said that, I would have just assumed this dude was from the hood, just from the way he was talking.
I mean, well, when I was back at one of my old day jobs, this Asian kid, he wasn't from the damn hood, but he was into hip hop, and he was trying to manage some DJ or something like that. So he was talking to me. He's like, "Yo, this guy I know, he's DJing. You know, he's crazy. He's really hype. Yo, you want to listen? Can you take a minute and listen to his stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So he went down to his car and he popped in a CD. So he's fast forwarding, searching, trying to find. He was like, "Yo, man, I can't wait till you hear this shit, man. Yo, this nigga's sick, man." You know, and you know, I'll admit, you know, for a split second, I flinched. You know, but again, like Sauce just said, I understood just from the way he said it, the easiness, the tone, the intonations. I was like, okay, he's saying it as if he was just another cat who's into hip hop, you know, and he was Asian, straight Asian kid. And, you know, I didn't flip out. I didn't try to scold him. I didn't even give him a warning. Well, you know, son, you know, you be careful. It wasn't necessary. I knew it wasn't necessary. I knew there was no harm, there was no intent, you know, and I worked with him, so I never heard him say that prior to that moment at any time. We were in his car. We wasn't standing at the desk of some fucking VP or some shit like that. You know, it wasn't even mixed company. It was he and I, and we had a moment, and he got comfortable, and I let him be comfortable, because that's what I'm saying, contest. I'm saying knowing when to pick your battles, knowing when to go off and fight. You know, this is what you people are lacking. You're lemmings. You'll just walk right the fuck off a cliff because someone says you're supposed to.
You're supposed to fight about this particular thing. And I said that it just, you know, because the word, you know, it's such a powerful catalytic word. It's just a powerful word. And I understand how there can be discussions indefinitely about this, but I always try and meter out the situation and try and address it at that point in time. Right there. I never try and bring all the history of the word and bring it back. And I guess more people can't do that now. Like you said, you know, the fact that when you see things in print, you can't hear how a person is, you know, you know, you can't fucking hear. So a lot of times that's why I don't like, you know, whenever I say something in a text that might be construed as something different, I always put LOL, apostrophe, you know, laugh, smiley face, so you don't take it the wrong way, because you can read something and like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, wait a minute now, and not understand. So the fact that it was actually put out there, written, you know, not to say that they would have given her a pass if she had said it. They probably would have shot the bitch on sight if she said it. But, you know, it was a cold delivery that opened up the door for so much of this stuff. Whereas, like you said, when your friend said it, and like you know, one of the guys who wanted to come on the show, another artist friend of mine was, I mean, if anybody should have been like jaded, I guess, in the early life against black folks, or, you know, when black folks say niggas, we mean like I guess the same way where white folks might say poor white trash, and, you know, or something like that. We're talking about, in certain contexts, we're talking about the bad parts of black culture, black society, you know, and I'm talking about, you know, Buzz, and he told me, yo, dudes ripped him off of his fucking Adidas back in the days when they used to, you know, turn your pockets out and take. He said he had to walk home, you know, because he was a little Asian kid in the hood. Easy money right there. They went and took his sneakers from him. And he said, yo, you know, the niggas caught me, you know. And when he said it, he didn't say it in a way, because I realized from listening to the rest of his conversation that he was raised around Flatbush Church. And if you remember Flatbush Church back in the 80s, it was just, I mean, it was more diverse now. Now it's more of a West Indian community, but back then it was a lot of African Americans still in populating that area, and you had a lot of, you know, still gangs and outlaws, and a couple other guys was around. The Jolly Stompers was still a little bit around back in those days, for you real old people. And just listening to his dialogue, I realized he still wasn't, even though he got caught, he wasn't using it as those niggers. And he's like, niggas caught me. Dudes caught me, cats caught me, they rolled on me, whatever. And I never once checked him because I understood.
Yeah. Sometimes it could be as simple as that.
And,
But,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to continue this. We got to take another break. We will be back in 2.
All right, I'm going to try this shit one more time, and we'll see.
My words can't be held against me. I'm not caught up in your law. All music must obey me, all pain must obey me. I cripple my enemies, got the gift of vocabulary.
We wanna